And finally, Chikara, which has been around since 2002. So the same year that NWA TNA started and Ring of Honor started is the same year that Chikara started. 2002 is a big year. 2002 was the year that WWF became WWE. So that was a pretty big year in the wrestling business. And a promotion that has been known for a lot of things. A lot of very talented names either got their start there or passed through Chikara, who you can now see on television today. In AEW, NWA, WWE. They all passed through Chikara. A lot of wacky gimmicks, right? The Colony. Could forget the Colony. I remember Chuck Taylor's Invisible Grenade. One of the coolest things I ever saw, which I'm sure would make Jim Cornette's head explode, but I remember Chuck Taylor's Invisible Grenade and Soldier Ant very valiantly diving on top of it to save his fellow ants. I'll never forget that. You know, some people may not know that my alter ego, Orange Cassidy, actually started as Fire Ant in Chikara. I didn't even know that until a few years ago, that he was Fire Ant. I remember Colt Cabunny and CP Monk called themselves Team World Wildlife Fund, of course short for Team WWF. I think CM Punk was actually pissed about CP Monk, but I don't get the impression that Punk had a good sense of humor about a lot of things back then. Sweet and Sour, Larry Sweeney, I know, spent many years in Chikara, even though I first saw him. I think my first exposure to Larry Sweeney was probably when I saw him in Ring of Honor. And what a great fucking talent he was. I mean, that is a loss that does not get talked about enough, is the death of Larry Sweeney. It makes me very sad. There are a lot of people probably even listening to this right now who have no idea who he is. Like, who's that? And that just makes me so sad. I can't believe it's been almost 10 years since he passed away. He could have been, and I've heard other people make these comparisons, and I hesitate to even say this because Bobby Heenan to me is like the greatest of all time, but he could have been that type of character. He could have been the Bobby Heenan of this generation. Although you go back and you watch some of his promos when he would cut promos, you know, he wrestled, but he was also a manager. And I think, honestly, I think that's the role he was really born for, was to be a manager, to be that kind of agent type character. You go back and watch some of his promos, this guy was whacked out of his mind. It reminded me of Roddy Piper. He had a little bit of Roddy Piper, a little bit of Bobby Heenan, all kind of rolled up into one. It's a very talented performer. I was not the biggest Chikara fan who followed everything, but I know enough about it to know that it definitely has its place in history. You know, the King of Trios tournament, that was its big signature event every single year. Anyway, after 18 years in operation, the promotion has been shut down by owner Mike Quackenbush in the wake of allegations of abuse and misconduct levied against him and other members of the Chikara roster. I suspect that WWE will not be bringing Quackenbush to the Performance Center anymore as a guest coach. I'm just going to go out on a limb and make that assumption. Many allegations of abuse against female trainees, against staff members, and as the allegations began to come out fast and furious, numerous wrestlers announced that they were cutting ties with the promotion. Kimberly, Hallowicked, Frightmare, Green Ant. I mean, just a wave of resignations and people just trying to distance themselves as far away as they possibly could from the promotion until Quackenbush just finally shut it down. And then he put out a 14-minute long apology video that honestly, it felt more to me like a wrestling promo than an apology, but maybe that's just the way he speaks. I've never met the guy, I've never interacted with him, maybe that's just the way he speaks, but that's how it came off to me. I know one person who didn't believe his apology, and that's Lucha House Party member Lince Dorado from SmackDown, who tweeted, "Lies! I don't believe you, especially at this moment in your BS video. I tried to reach out through email and friends over the years for over a decade. Tried to meet in person and have closure at the PC. Coward. My closure is you being exposed. This will be my last tweet about this POS. Well, that escalated quickly. So I had to look into this. And as I understand, now I remember hearing about some kind of incident years ago where somebody had a seizure in the ring. I did not know that was Lince Dorado, and I don't know if that has to do with this tweet. And I'll tell you why here in a second, because I'm a little confused. So as I understand it, the incident, it took place in 2007. Lince was wrestling for Chikara at the time. He was in a match, he went for a shooting star senton, and by his own admission, he over-rotated and he smacked his head when he landed. He started having a seizure in the middle of the ring. And his opponent took Lince's arm, I guess, as he was seizing, and placed it over himself so that he could be pinned and the match could be over. Always got to finish the match, right? Always got to finish the match. So then, the ringside doctor, according to Quackenbush, and as he tells the story over the years, the ringside doctor comes in, he's drunk. Which is never a good thing. When you have a ringside doctor, and they are 3 sheets to the wind, and you have somebody in the ring who is in the middle of having a seizure, you don't know if this guy just broke his neck. Not a good thing. So they didn't know what to do. Apparently Daisy Hayes, remember Daisy Hayes? Some of you may remember Daisy Hayes. I remember her from Ring of Honor. She was at the time not only on the roster, but she was also training to become a paramedic. So Quackenbush called for Daisy Hayes to come on into the ring. She comes in, and they're panicking. Neither one of them know what to do. And they have no doctor because the guy's drunk out of his mind. So they either removed his mask and quickly covered his face with a towel to keep kayfabe, or Quackenbush would not let him, or would not let the people take his mask off. But even if he did, the guy's having a seizure. And your main concern is covering his face with a towel? They got him out of there. They put him in an ambulance. Luckily for him, he only suffered a bad concussion. That was the worst of it. I don't know if this tweet has anything to do with that incident, but I found an interview that Lince did only a few years ago, actually, when he came in for the Cruiserweight Classic. So he was in, WWE had just brought him in. So this was in 2016. It's not that long ago. And he was asked in the interview about that incident, and he was very complimentary of Quackenbush and Chikara. He chalked it up to just being a freak accident, and he said they were great. They made sure I was taken care of when the doctor couldn't do his job, and he thanked them. So I would love to know exactly what prompted that tweet, because clearly he feels very differently about Quackenbush now than he did 4 years ago when he gave that interview.